everybody, and welcome to a very special Fight and Focus. I'm Josh Shernoff, and we are here ahead of the June 11th NWA Alwayz Ready pay-per-view, and I am joined now by the woman who will be defending the Women's World Championship for the NWA, Kamille. Kamille, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, very excited to be able to talk to you. Of course, you will be defending your championship against KyLinn King. We'll jump right into it with that. Can you tell us a little bit about her, about this matchup? And I know that this is one where physically this could be a bit of a competition here. But tell me in general, what are you expecting out of her as an opponent?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, KyLinn trained at Team 3D with me. She came in a little bit after me, so we didn't get a ton of time together in the ring training. But since we did train under the same people, I think we have the same mindset, which is interesting going into this matchup because we kind of know each other's tricks, if you will. So that's going to be interesting because I haven't been in the ring with anybody like that where they know what I'm thinking. I know what they're going to be thinking.
Right.
And yeah, as far as physically, I'm pretty sure she's a little bit taller than me. I think I've still got her on the thickness though. I think I'm still a little bit stronger than her. So physically, this will be my toughest matchup to date as champion.
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you ever been in the ring with somebody taller than you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I tried to think back to like what I had seen before. And obviously, look, height's not everything, right? But that's got to be an interesting feeling for you to step in there. You are used to getting into the ring and either having a little bit of an advantage or in some cases just towering over some of the other women that you faced. Mentally, how do you prepare for something like that? Because I just feel like your stature in general is different from when you're looking down on somebody to looking up or looking eye to eye.
Yeah, so mentally, I'm just having to prepare knowing that my go-to game, if you will, is normally my power game. I mean, that's usually how I have an advantage over people is I'm more powerful. Where in this case, KyLinn is a little bit bigger, so I'm having to rethink of kind of, what I want to do in there. If anything, it's probably just going to turn into a brawl. That's what I'm thinking. I think it's just going to turn into a fight. Luckily, I've been in quite a few fights in my life, so I think I'll have the advantage there because I don't know if KyLinn is about that life, So, yeah.
So you've been women's champion for how long now?
Today marks 1 year. Today is the 1 year anniversary.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That is impressive. This day and age, a year-long title reign is not something that you see all the time. So congratulations on that. That's huge. And now obviously you want to keep that going. So, 1 year, I feel like at 364 days, a year seems like, oh man, I just want to hit that. And then a year and a day, you feel like, man, that's not anything. I need a year and a half. I need 2 years. And you want to keep rolling with it. So, obviously best of luck in the match there. I'm going to ask you some predictions for other matches on the card. I'm not really going to ask a prediction for this one because I think I have a clear idea of who you expect to win. But I am excited to see this match between the two of you, and I think that fans of yours should be very excited to be able to see you in there with somebody of the same stature, to be able to see what the two of you can do. And the fact that, and I didn't know this, that she trained at Team 3D school as well, that means that both of you have that same education, that same mindset that you go back to. No matter what you've learned in your career, your fundamentals all came from the same place. So I feel like that's really intriguing.
And Bully Ray is going to be on commentary for that match. So you're going to have his inside, information and look on it. So that'll be super interesting as well for fans.
Oh, absolutely. So why don't we, while we're talking, before we get to the men, let's talk about some of the women that are on this card as well, because we have the Hex defending the World Women's Tag Team Championship against the Pretty Empowered. And again, the Pretty Empowered, this is a team that I'm not overly familiar with. We've got some faces that we haven't really seen that much of before. The Hex, obviously, they have held the championship since they were brought back. And fans are very familiar with their work. What can we expect out of this tag team title match?
I think you're going to expect to actually see a lot out of Pretty Empowered. I mean, Kinsey Page, I don't know if you know a lot about her, but she's been showing everybody her stuff lately. I mean, she is a competitor and she is rough and tough. If you get chopped by Kinsey, you're going to need a moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And her partner Ella is also, I mean, Ella is learning from Kinsey as well. So I know that the last pay-per-view at Crockett Cup, they actually faced the Hex and lost. And so I think they're coming in there with a little bit, of a chip on their shoulder. So I'm excited to see what they bring to the table.
So speaking of the Crockett Cup and facing the tag champions and losing, we also have from the Crockett Cup facing the tag champions and winning. We have the Commonwealth Connection will be challenging La Rebellion for the World Tag Team Championships. What do we expect in a match like this? Obviously, a tag team match I think is going to be very different than the women's tag match. Do you have any expectations out of this that you're looking forward to?
Same thing. I think La Rebellion, they've lost to this team before. Luckily, it was for the Crockett Cup and not for their titles, but they're going to come in. They don't want to lose those titles. I mean, they've been holding those with pride for a little bit of time now, and they defend them everywhere. I mean, they wrestle in Mexico, and they put on a great show for everybody. And I think it's a very interesting dynamic as far as their wrestling styles versus the Commonwealth, because it's Commonwealth very technical wrestling.
Sure.
Whereas, La Rebellion is a bit more high flying, energetic. And so to combine those together, I think it's a really interesting dynamic for the fans to watch. And you don't really know what's going to happen. And that's the most interesting thing about it.
And of course, also you had mentioned in your match, the strength, having more strength than your opponent. I mean, you look at the Commonwealth Connection and I can't really think of a tag team with more strength behind them. Just physical strength behind them. So yeah, that's going to be a hard hitting one. That's going to be interesting to see for sure. They're just championship matches like crazy on this card. We have the World Television Championship match. Two guys who will not be high flying, I would suggest.
No, I don't think so.
Tyrus versus Mims. Man, Mims kind of a homegrown here. What is Tyrus is, when I was talking with Nick Aldis, he had mentioned about how Tyrus is very successful outside of the NWA as well. And will that affect his focus on this match and on his championship? Where do you land on that?
Yeah, so like you said, Mims is kind of homegrown. I mean, he has a lot to prove. And I think a lot of times the underdogs and the people with a lot to prove, they can really show people up. And like Nick said, I guess that Tyrus, he has a lot going on the outside. I mean, Fox News, and he has this book that is doing very well for itself. So his mind might be a little bit off right now just because he has a lot going on, and good for him. But I don't know if it's necessarily focused on his upcoming match. Whereas Mims, that's all he's got.
Right.
It's this or blow. Like he has to show himself. So I think it's going to be a super interesting matchup. And I think Mims, for, a bigger guy, is also very athletic. So we'll see what he has. But Mims might show up Tyrus on this one.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, some people would say, well, okay, yeah, he's busy, but what does that really have to do? Well, think about it this way. If Mims is studying tape on Tyrus and Tyrus is over on Fox News, well, Tyrus isn't studying tape on Mims. And if Mims is in the gym getting a little bit more cardio so his wind is up a little bit, doing a little more strength training, Tyrus is not, because Tyrus is over dealing with his book or dealing with whatever. Yeah. So again, congratulations to him on all of his success, but
exactly
that may, and then of course also sometimes a champion, I'm sure you don't fall into this category, but sometimes a champion can rest on their laurels. They can rest on the fact that, hey, I'm champion, right? I'm coming in here. What do I have to, I don't have to necessarily even win. There could be a disqualification. There could be a count out. So, there's sometimes a different mindset than somebody like Mims. What a huge opportunity this is. And again, I don't mean to say that Tyrus is not focused, because he very well might come in there as laser focused as he's ever been in his career. I don't know. But It's definitely something to keep an eye on and be interested in. Speaking of championships, we have the National Heavyweight Championship match as well. Jax Dane, the champion, against former champion Chris Adonis. Do you think that when we talk about focus, Chris Adonis can focus on the match more so than just the focus on reclaiming his championship?
So I do think that most of his focus is going to be on reclaiming his championship, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that, you know, a lot of times people have, like I said before, kind of that chip on their shoulder, and that can really push them forward. And Chris, he was part of Strictly Business. We kind of kicked him to the curb. And so he has a lot riding on this right now to prove that, like, he doesn't need us, he doesn't need Strictly Business. He can do it on his own. So he also has that to prove. And Jack Stane, I do think that maybe he's getting a little bit too big for his britches. So we'll see how that plays out.
Now, you mentioned, kind of kicking him to the curb. Can you talk, for those who aren't necessarily familiar with it, walk us through why? I mean, Chris Adonis, incredible athlete. What was it that just didn't work?
I just felt like he was holding us down a little bit and holding Tom down. I think that Tom is better off on his own. Like, Nick was holding him down, Chris Adonis was holding him down. To me, I was like, baby, all you need is me, and I will take you to the heights that you need. And so everybody else, they can see the door.
Well, I am certainly not going to argue with you on that one. We have our main event, which we don't necessarily know what to expect, right? The event is called Alwayz Ready, named after the logo is literally Matt Cardona's logo. Matt Cardona, the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. This is his event. He has let everybody know that this is his event. However, last week, he tore his bicep. As we record this, he is getting surgery tomorrow. Nick Aldis felt that he chose the surgery so that he wouldn't have to wrestle, because he could have just taped it up and gone, and then had his surgery. But, I mean, I can't say whether or not that's true. But Matt Cardona, regardless, will be having surgery, and I just can't imagine on a surgery that requires 3 to 5 months rehab. I can't imagine he's going to be wrestling on Saturday. So first of all, what is your thought on what's been going on? Because this is much more than just a match. This is much more than just Nick Aldis wanting to regain his championship. This has become so unbelievably personal between the two, involving their wives. This has been boiling over, and Aldis is just, he seems pretty happy that something bad has happened to Cardona, but he seems pretty upset that he's not necessarily going to get an opportunity to get his hands on him. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he'll attack him. Who knows? But what is your opinion been on this entire event, or this entire feud between the two of them in general?
So my opinion just on Matt Cardona is that he never should be champion for the NWA anyway. He's too worried about being champion for this promotion, that promotion. We need an NWA champion. And that's the reason he's hurt, is because he's out there doing silly stuff everywhere else. So I don't think that he should have been champion in the first place, number one. Number two, I don't care about Nick. I don't care about Nick's feelings. I don't think that he should be facing Matt Cardona for the championship anyway. I have a husband that is fully capable of being the world's heavyweight champion, and he should be. And I don't understand why he hasn't been thrown in the mix. And so I don't care about Matt. I don't care about Nick. All I know is now that Matt's hurt, like I said, I got a husband, Tom Latimer, that's fully capable of being the champion. So let's throw him in the mix. Let's throw him in there and see what happens.
And you know what? Maybe we will, right? Who knows what's going to happen here? This could open up an opportunity for a Tom Latimer or somebody else to step up and step in. And we don't know. Is Cardona going to be stripped of the championship? Is he going to be allowed to hold the championship? Will there be an interim champion like we've seen in other promotions when someone's injured? We don't know what is going to happen here. One would have to imagine, no matter how you slice it, Nick Aldis is top of the list. He's front of the line. I mean, he's the number one contender as of right now.
Self that he is. So yes.
Well, hey, look, he feels that he is wrongfully, it is wrongfully suggested that he has any sort of power or influence. It's not for me to say, but Nick Aldis, let's say he's front of the line. Now we have Latimer here looking to, for an opportunity. There are few people that Tom Latimer can have in his corner who know Nick Aldis better than you, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if I'm Nick, I've got to be looking over my shoulder saying, man, I really hope it's not Tom Latimer. So who knows? We don't know what's going to happen. Matt Cardona has said he will be there. So we do know that he will be there, and Nick Aldis will be there. But what's going to happen? Well, you have to tune in to find out. And you will be able to tune in June 11th, 8 o'clock Eastern time, right here on FITE. Can we talk just for a minute about the NWA in general? It's been how many months? I guess how long since the NWA has been back from the hiatus during the pandemic?
Oh, I don't know. I'm the worst with stats.
I'm just trying to think. Has it been a year yet?
It's been a year because I've been champion for more than a year.
Okay, right. So, I mean, I feel like the NWA kind of picked up right where it left off, if not, it went to an even higher level after hiatus, which is pretty impressive. But the NWA is just still rocking and rolling and moving forward. Can you tell any fans who are watching this or maybe interested in the NWA, maybe this is the first NWA pay-per-view that they will have ever gotten, right? This is a new fan who fell in love with wrestling during the pandemic and came on over here to FITE TV and is now excited to check out the NWA. What can you tell that fan? How can you explain how the NWA is different from other wrestling products out there?
Yes, I would say if you like real wrestling, and not necessarily all this silly, crazy stuff that goes on today, then come on over, watch the NWA. You will be entertained. You'll be fully involved in the stories going on because what we do is we're storytellers and we tell stories and we get people fully invested in what's going on in the ring. And if you want to see people hard-hitting action that's not like Cirque du Soleil, then come on over to the NWA because we will show you some hard-hitting, real wrestling.
And some of that hard-hitting real wrestling is going to be Kamille defending the women's championship against KyLinn King. Man, I'm excited for this event. Anything else that you want to leave us with before we send everybody off to go pre-order if they haven't already?
Yeah, obviously we would love to have everybody there in person, giving that energy to us. We would love that, but we understand not everybody can make it. So make sure you head over to FITE TV to order the pay-per-view if you can't make it there live. Even if you just want to see what's happening with Matt Cardona, what's he going to do? I mean, that's a big question that I'm even curious myself. So make sure you tune into that. Make sure you tune in to see the one-time champion, Kamille, stay the one-time champion by defending my title. Can't wait for you guys to check it out. It's going to be a great pay-per-view.
Before we go, I do want to say something. That's interesting that you say that. The one-time champion. I like that because, look, we hear all about, 16-time world champion something. And that's not to take anything. Look, that shows me that they were knocked down, but they kept getting back up, right?
Right.
But at the same time, a one-time champion for an entire year, to me, that's way better than a four-time champion over a year. Right? Like this is, you haven't lost. You're holding on to this championship. Is that this might be kind of a silly question because obviously you don't want to lose, but how important is that to you to kind of create a legacy of duration as opposed to the amount of championships that you win?
Yeah, you said it yourself. I think the word is like a legacy because I've played sports my whole life. Anybody can win one game here and there. Anybody can, but to be like the UConn of women's basketball that won every single tournament for however many years, that is a legacy. And that means that you cannot be beat. And so that's what I wanted, because the thing is, if I'm a 16-time champion, that just means I've been beat 16 times for the title. If I'm that one-time champion, who can beat me?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that being the one-time champion and having that duration, like you said, it creates a legacy for me and for the NWA. So that's what I want to really hold in high regard.
Well, KyLinn King is showing up to try and stop that legacy in its tracks, but I'm not so sure she's going to be successful. Everybody, make sure that you tune in. Do not miss this event. It's called Alwayz Ready, of course, named for Matt Cardona. We'll see what ends up happening there. But one thing that we know for sure is that Kamille will be defending the women's championship against KyLinn King, and we are excited to see that. So join us this Saturday, June 11th, 8 o'clock Eastern time, live on FITE for NWA Alwayz Ready. Kamille, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thanks for having me.
It was my pleasure, absolutely. And we will see all of you again Saturday night, June 11th, 8 o'clock Eastern time, right here on FITE for NWA Alwayz Ready.